Are you sold on Chris Sale after his first spring training start?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Jake Ignaszewski, and here, as always, with my co-host, NESN, Lauren Willand, and it's sale day. It's incredible that we finally get to say this long-awaited Chris Sale start in spring training, first time since 2019, and it was funny. When I hear the year 2019, I think back to my sophomore year of college, and I'm 2 years removed from college. And it's just weird to me because, like, I mean, I don't got to explain to, the listeners how long it's been since we've seen Chris Sale fully healthy, but it's just nice to see him back on the mound, dominating in the 2 innings that he did against the Tigers and walking off the mound with a smile on his face. Nothing better than that.
Yeah, I mean, if we all want to forget what happened the last year when he was on the mound and just absolutely got his hand mangled by a comebacker from the Yankees. But he looks good. He looks healthy. It's really, really good to see him, like you said, smiling out there. Then when he was talking to Jemai Webster after, he's still smiling and still making jokes, about what happened the last time he was on the mound. But it's been a long time since he's been healthy. And hopefully this is the season that he can be. It's a great, great start. It's great to see him. He had the control there and everything. Yes, it was 2 innings, but that's what I mean. It's still early in spring training. You're not going to go out there and tell him to go throw 5 or 6 innings. He would if you told him to do that. He would. But it's a really, really positive start and a promising start for Chris Sale. And it's what you wanted to see because he's worked really hard to get back to full health. And maybe this is the season that he finally gets to it.
And that's the one thing that, reflecting on sort of what we've seen him over the last few years, it's been a lot of us waiting, until, April, June, whatever it is. That's when, the season begins, when Chris Sale comes back. And, like I said, it's been since 2019 that he's really started the season with the team healthy on opening day. Now, we've talked about it, a lot of, sort of pressure on his shoulders to be that ace, that frontline starter for the team and sort of go back into the form that we saw him be dominant. Obviously, you can't really put that amount of pressure on him trying to get back to being comfortable. But it was nice to see him take that first step in his first start of spring. As you mentioned, he had pinpoint control. And the one thing that I noticed as well is that the fastball velocity got up there a little bit. It was up to 96 last year. His average was 95. Obviously, only appeared in 1 to 2 games, and then 2021 it was at 94. So it's nice to see that at least his velocity is up there, and the control looks pinpoint so far.
It does, and it's really. I mean, what more could you have asked for in a start like this for Chris Sale? And he, like I said, he looks good. He looks like he has control of his pitches. He looks confident on the mound. And he said he's a big fan of that pitch clock, even though he did get the violation. He was like, I like it, but he's not a slow pitcher either. I think he's someone who's not going to be too impacted by it. I say that as he got the violation on Monday, but overall, I think it was just a really positive start for Chris Sale and something that we like to see, something we love to see, and gave fans optimism. And yes, there's a ton of question marks around him. Can he stay healthy? Can he not get hit around? Can he last 4 or 5 innings? There's a lot of questions, but this was a very, very good start. And of course, we know the work ethic he has. He's just going to continue to build off of this, wait for his next start, and hopefully look the same, if not better.
And you mentioned that aspect of fans don't want to see him get hit around, and he let up 2 hits. Those 2 hits were due to balls over the center of the plate, and he's just gonna have to get used to being able to pinpoint his pitches on the edges, keep the bats away from the balls. So then obviously doesn't allow a lot of guys on base. But it was nice to see sort of what we saw from his rehab start in Worcester stacked up the walks. I believe it was around 4 to 5 walks when he made that rehab appearance. And, it was just nice to see him really looking like himself again. I had to bring out the Chris Sale bobblehead for the people who are watching the video version. But as well as, you got to see that energy of him, not only coming off the mound, but also when he was talking to Jemai. And, I think especially with what they were talking about during the broadcast is, Alex Cora has been sort of the person who's excited to have him back on the field, and says sort of the one that's like sort of mellow of like, no, let's just take it one day at a time and not get too excited too early.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. That's what you and I keep saying, is that yes, it's early, and yes, we're not going to put too much stock into somebody being really good or somebody being really, really bad, because we know that at the end of the day, it's regular season that matters, and anyone can turn it around for better or for worse when it comes to the regular season. But it's just really, really good to see, because if Chris Sale had gone out there and threw 2 innings, gave up 4 hits, 5 earned runs, couldn't get strikeouts, he was walking people left and right, there'd be a lot of negativity around him. And it's in the same, as excited as we are about him doing well, then yes, it is spring training. So I'm going to carry, that same kind of energy that I would have had if it was a negative start. But it's good to see, and I want to continue to see this. Hopefully he has the ability to continue to string together these kinds of outings. I think he will. I do have a lot of high hope for Chris Sale, and I'm excited that this first start went probably as well as it could have gone.
I think if it was a negative start, there'd be a lot of TVs broken. I think maybe we might see another one of those upset videos that we saw in Worcester. But it was also interesting to see his mindset going into this game of what he was working on. And you would think for a guy trying to get the juices flowing back, that's sort of what he mentioned he was trying to do. But also, just starting the season on the right foot, he might have 1 or 2 things, maybe a pitch or 2 that maybe he's working on, maybe his control, or getting that change up to be back to where it was before he injured his pinky. But he said, when I'm in a game, I'm not working on anything. I'm working on competing and winning. And that's just what you love to hear from a fiery guy like Chris Sale, excited to be back on the mound and help the Red Sox win each time he's out there.
Yeah, and that's all we want, right? We just want him to be as healthy as possible. We want him to give the Red Sox a chance to win every single time he's on the mound, and we want him to return to the ace form. The Red Sox, this rotation doesn't necessarily have an ace right now. That is, I think it's Chris Sale. He wants to go back and regain that ace-like form for the Red Sox. But yeah, I think that if anyone's going to do it, it's Chris Sale. But I'm really excited for the next 5 days to go by so he can come back on the mound and see how he feels, going out there. Yes, it's just 2 innings, but this is how you start to ramp up. And he's thrown the live hitters in spring, but he hasn't pitched in a game since last year when he got his pinky blown off. And then before that, you just have to go back and be like, well, all right, let's just see what kind of Chris Sale we get this year. And I think we're going to get a very determined, a very hungry, and a very angry Chris Sale, someone who has a chip on his shoulder and someone who knows he has a ton to prove, because he feels like he owes the Red Sox fans something, because he hasn't been healthy a lot of his extension since he signed that extension a few years ago. So big season for Chris Sale, just like a lot of other people on this roster. But I think that we're going to see a different Chris Sale in the best way possible. We're not going to see the Chris Sale that we barely saw last year and the year before that. I think we're going to see a very, very different Chris Sale this year.
And you brought up that health, and I think a lot of the positivity surrounding his start today was not only how well he looked, but also it wasn't maybe a replication of what we saw from James Paxton's first start. It seems like stars are dropping like flies. Paxton strains his hamstring. Bayo, Whitlock might not be ready for opening day, and just sort of the pattern of, I guess you could say, bad luck that the Red Sox are currently having in terms of injuries lately. Chris Sale, thank God, is not one of them, knock on wood. And hopefully he's able to stay like that, because I think it gets to a certain point where you can only have so much depth in terms of starting pitching. Yes, like that's sort of what every team wants, is to have deep starting pitching depth. When a guy goes down, you're able to slot him right in. Right. But, it's nice to see that he was able to at least begin the season and have this first start without having any sort of negative feelings coming out of this one with a potential injury, a potential strain, or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, tomorrow, Tuesday, will be the big day to see how he's feeling and to see, how he reacted to being out there and starting a spring training game. But if he looks as good as he was feeling and he continues, he seems like he's got a very, very good attitude, and he always does. He's always accountable. He always knows what to say when something is done. But I think the smiling Chris Sale and the happy Chris Sale is a Chris Sale we haven't seen in a very long time. And I think that that's going to even just fuel him further and provide him more motivation to be the ace of this staff and be the Chris Sale that he knows he can be, and the Chris Sale that Red Sox fans all want him to be.
And, one thing that, we've heard time and time again since spring training has begun is sort of trying to understand the vibe check, day in and day out. What is sort of the vibe around, camp? How is this clubhouse jiving together with all the new faces? I found it interesting to hear what Sale said to Jemiah Webster in terms of the energy this spring. He said it's just exciting. A lot of new faces, guys are competing. That's the fun thing about this spring. There's a different energy. There's a lot of new guys here. There's guys who are trying to find a job and keep a job. That creates a great atmosphere for competitiveness, for friendly competition, and that's only going to translate better for us out on the field. And I hadn't thought about that aspect of it, with the tons of different positional battles, how that could add to the ultimate competitiveness factor in terms of the team really going into opening day ready to dominate and motivated to compete, not obviously against each other, but against these other teams, and really be able to use that competitiveness to fuel them to ultimately get wins.
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about this, that this is going to be a hungry ball club. It's just a matter of, are they going to be able to keep up with the teams around them? And so far, so good in spring training. We've seen a lot of reasons to be optimistic. We've seen a lot of players who know they're competing for a spot on this 26-man roster and who want to be part of the opening day roster, the festivities, and just be around this Red Sox team come March 30th, March 31st. So it's really good to see the competitive nature of this team in spring training. It's good to see, like you mentioned, the vibes are good. Everyone seems like they're just really gelling and they're really meshing. And it really does seem like that they've all put 2022 in the past and they don't want to talk about it. They've closed that chapter. They're ready to write a new one in 2023 with a lot of new faces, and the ones who are still here, not just from 2018, that World Series team, but even last year and the year before, they're ready to just kind of rewrite who they are and rewrite the narrative around this team.
And one thing that we saw happen in Monday's game that was really tough to see is Justin Turner getting hit in the face by a Matt Manning pitch. And I've seen things in the past like Jason Hayward and Giancarlo Stanton, but it was just tough to see a guy like Turner, not only a new face, but somebody who's going to be critical to this Red Sox lineup, but just the human aspect of it. You never want to see somebody get hurt, especially get hit in the face, or rather also the head as well. P. Dave ended up, reporting an update. He said that Turner's been taken to a local hospital. No further updates other than that. I wouldn't be surprised if something comes out once we ultimately do post this podcast, but just prayers for Justin Turner and hope he has a speedy recovery.
Yeah, you never want to see that. It's really scary when players get hit, in the face, the head, anywhere in that area. It's really scary. The good thing is, though, is that Justin Turner was able to get up and walk. He did have the trainer with him, but his face was gushing blood. Mm-hmm. So really good to see him just be able to walk off, and hopefully I'm not surprised he went to the hospital. It's probably precautionary, but he could have some facial fractures. And like you said, by the time that we're done recording, we'll hopefully have some sort of update, whether that's just Alex Cora saying he's in good spirits, he's fine, he's laughing, right, or Alex Cora saying that we're going to be without him for a little while. But it's nothing you want to see. And, Justin Turner, he's new to this team. He was going to be some sort of leader with that veteran presence on this team, and losing a potential power-ish bat in the middle of the lineup hitter really, really sucks, especially in spring training. But hopefully he's okay, and hopefully he can just bounce back, and hopefully it's nothing too serious. I'm sure that it's probably going to be a pretty gnarly bruise on his face, or whatever is all said and done. But hopefully he's okay. Like I said, good news that we saw him walking on his own and walk. I mean, he's probably in so much pain. I'd be walking as fast as I could to get off that field. But just that was good to see. That's probably the only good thing that has come from that as we record. But hope he's okay, and hopefully he can just get right back to this team, and hopefully he doesn't miss opening day. But the main thing is that if he does, then he just needs to get better, because that's what we want. We don't, if he has to miss a couple of weeks or whatever, fine, just get better, because that's really scary to see when you get hit in that face area.
We said it. You never want to see that happen, but I think the only positive that comes out of it is that it's March 7th right now, and we're not a few days, a week away from opening day, so he does have some time to recover, and I wouldn't be surprised, just knowing Justin Turner's personality from what we've been able to see thus far, not only with the Sox but also throughout his MLB career. He'll probably make a joke out of it in terms of his bruise, be like, shoot, I thought I was ugly before, look at me now, something like that. But hope speedy recovery for Justin Turner, and hope we get some positive news very soon. But if you're looking for some positive news in terms of your career, LinkedIn Jobs is the number one spot to be able to post a job and also look for a job as well. And especially these days, with every potential hire can be a high stakes wager for your small business. And if you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, that's where you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. They have simple tools like screening questions, which make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience to do so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. And you can also add a job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. And that's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So if you want to get qualified candidates and talk to them faster and easier, post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may apply. And we've continued to see the Red Sox stack up the wins going into spring training. Well, as we're recording, the current game that's going on right now against the Tigers is still happening. So, hopefully the Sox can get a win in this one. 3 ties, very interesting. I don't know if I've seen so many ties from one team in the spring, but I think the pitch clock definitely helps with that, and then obviously the lesser competitiveness with some of the prospects and some of the guys more focusing on just getting their reps in. But one guy who it's been nice to see get his reps in is Corey Kluber. We saw him on the mound on Sunday, ended up finishing with 52 pitches, 2 hits, 2 walks, and struck out 4. And he's one guy that has a lot of pressure on his shoulders, as well as we mentioned about Chris Sale too, because Kluber's a guy who obviously we know his past 2-time Cy Young winner, a little bit on the older side in terms of pitchers, but looking to bounce back after a little bit of a rough season with the Rays last year. But he seemed really good. He seemed like he was pinpointing his pitches and had really great control throughout the game, and was able to be confident with a lot of his different pitches, it seemed like.
Yeah, and much like Sale, it was really good to see him just kind of be on the mound and look in control and look like somebody who's going to be a solid part of this team and a serviceable pitcher to this rotation. There's a lot of question marks surrounding that rotation, and the offense has looked pretty good through spring training, as has the pitching. The pitching, I feel like the team overall, for the most part, has looked pretty good. So it was really good to see him out there as well. And it's what else can we say? Then it's like it was good to see, because if to start like this, it's so much better to start on a positive note than if they went out there and got shelled. So
Right.
I'm glad that we have positive news to talk about. We spent a lot of this off season questioning these moves, kind of figuring out what is this team going to be. And even though we still don't have an exact picture, I think that what we've seen so far is painting a much better picture than what you or I thought 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Right. And I think it gives fans clarity as well. Even though it's spring training, these games don't actually matter. I feel a lot more confident about this rotation, not in terms of it's going to erase the questions that I had going into the season, but just feel a little bit better with what we've seen thus far, even though it's a very small sample size. And I'm very curious to see sort of how Klubers obviously ultimately able to perform through a whole 162 season. But he did mention that reflecting on the start against the Marlins, he wished that he had not gotten into so many deep counts. He said every day is not going to be clean as you would like. And he said, I got the opportunity to work out of some situations with runners on base. So we accomplished that. And I feel like, especially early on in spring training, being able to, mentally prepare how to go about, runners in scoring position. Obviously, like with his experience throughout his career, he has a lot of experience doing that, but just getting back in the groove of things, getting the juices flowing, kind of like how Chris Sale said today, and just being able to mentally figure out, how you want to attack hitters with different situations that occur during a game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big spring training for a lot of pitchers, and when you're able to kind of figure out how to attack sooner rather than later, and you can kind of get that command and control, and just kind of get a groove early on in the season, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to probably pay dividends by the time opening day gets here. So hopefully, we can continue to see this kind of not dominance, but this kind of positivity from these pitchers. Let's keep going. I like where these pitchers are going, and like I said, now we're starting to see the Chris Sales, the Corey Klubers, the people who are going to be in this starting rotation most likely. Hopefully that James Paxton can bounce right back and hopefully get on this kind of train that Kluber and Sale are on right now. So it's good to see that Kluber and Sale are really finding their groove. Hopefully others, can follow suit. And now with James Paxton, Garrett Whitlock, and Brian Bayo likely not being ready for opening day, there's 3 more spots all of a sudden open on this roster that could go to any other pitcher that's fighting for a spot on that roster.
And one guy whose name has been brought up a lot to fill in the spot of either Bayo, Whitlock, or potentially Paxton is Cutter Crawford. And we saw him find a way to sneak on into that 26-man roster after last spring training, and he has looked as dominant this spring training as he did last. Obviously, in terms of what we saw from him during the regular season, wasn't exactly as dominant or as clean as we saw him in the 2022 spring training. Had a little bit of a higher ERA than most would like to see, up in the 5 or so. And I think what we've seen from him is a little bit more confidence on the mound and being able to not really allow any guys on base. And we saw that on Sunday's appearance. Ended up actually getting the win after pitching 3 hitless innings with 3 strikeouts, and in 2 games overall. He's pitched 5 innings, only allowing 2 hits with 5 strikeouts. And I think from what we've seen from him thus far, it's positive enough to at least be a little bit confident and want to see what he could bring to this Red Sox rotation if he does need to fill in.
Yeah, and I think that because we have seen him before, that maybe that's not the safe option, but an option that maybe Red Sox fans would be like, oh, okay, like we can do this, and we can get by until Bayo's back, until Whitlock's back. But then you think about when Whitlock and Bayo are ready and they're start ramping up their workouts. Where are they going? Are they going to be starters? Are they going into the bullpen as longer relief guys? It doesn't. I mean, it sounds like that they both are going to be in this rotation, but how long are they going to miss? How short of a leash do these guys have who are in the rotation? So it's going to be really interesting over the next few weeks to see who is going to be filling these holes for the players who are injured.
And also, with some of those guys who might be filling in, if they make an impact, who could be sent down, who could be released, who could be put on waivers, different things like that. I think especially with where the rotation currently looks, with multiple guys might not being able to start opening day, how could start in the rotation? We've talked about this a ton, that he's been told to build up as a starter, but where's he going to go? When 2 or 3 guys come back, and we've talked about this a ton, just being able to have specific roles for different guys. And I think especially for a guy like Crawford as well, if he does dominate as a starter, I don't see him as a long-term starter in this rotation, at least for this season. But I'm very curious to see how things continue to work out. We brought up the questions in this episode. Some are being answered from the ones that we had throughout the offseason, but it seems like each day they're just more and more arise, which just make it much more fun just for us to debate and sort of speculate on what could happen throughout the season. But it's always nice as well when you get specific updates about different players, which we got an update from Alex Cora regarding James Paxton and Connor Wong yesterday, saying just getting better treatment wise. They're doing a little bit more stuff. Paxton ended up throwing on his knees 2 days ago. Wong has been running in the pool. He did a few agility drills yesterday, better than what we expected, but we have to be cautious about it. And we've seen hamstring strains come up left and right throughout this spring training. Paxton, Wong, and then Williard Abreu ended up straining his hamstring as well in yesterday's game. And I think this is one thing that we're going to continue to see potentially from, guys maybe starting to ramp up and just getting used to playing every single day. That's where tightness comes in. That's where injuries ultimately start happening. But it's nice to start to hear some positivity regarding some, key players in Paxton and Wong.
Yeah, I mean, that's you want to see, the good news surrounding them and seeing where they're at in their rehab, especially people like Paxton, where there is so much, or there's already so many questions surrounding him because he was on track to pitch and he had some setbacks and he had the lat tear last year that shut him down completely. So to see him come back and hamstrings, I mean, hamstring injuries, there's a lot of those going around the Red Sox right now. And yes, it's early. Yes, they're not fully stretched out, but hopefully that they can continue to just not do too much, continue to rest, and just get back to where they're going to be serviceable people for this Red Sox team, especially Connor Wong. I mean, he had a lot riding on this spring training, trying to be the Red Sox backup catcher, and now he'll probably start this season in Worcester, which is fine. I think that that's probably where he should be anyway. But it's still a bummer to see because I do like him, and I think that there's a lot of potential there for him to be a serviceable catcher for this team.
And Alfaro is the guy that we've spoken about throughout the last week, who is essentially, right on his coattail of, in terms of a race of who will be the backup catcher. And right now, Alfaro is batting 700. He's 7 for 10 thus far in spring training. In yesterday's game, ended up going 3 for 3 with 2 RBIs. And you can't say enough about how impressive that is thus far for Alfaro. Obviously, curious to see how he ultimately ends up playing in the WBC. But in my mind, when March 25th comes around, I think it's kind of a no-brainer just to add him to the 40-man roster, especially if you don't see Connor Wong start to speed up his recovery in terms of his hamstring.
Yeah, and we've talked highly about him that he's got a lot of good energy around him, but your vibes and energy only go so far. But he's had a really impressive spring training, and we talked about how Alex Cora will have some difficult decisions to make once he has to cut down that roster to 26. So I mean, maybe it's going to be a bit easier now with Connor Wong injured and Alfaro just kind of sliding in there, but I don't think that means he's going to kind of slow down in what he's done for spring training. I think after the World Baseball Classic and he comes back and he's able to come back and be with the Red Sox, I think we'll continue to see what we've seen all spring training. And hopefully that translates over to regular season games because we know that's where everything matters.
Mm-hmm. And a lot throughout this episode, we've talked about, the pitching side of the team, but, two guys I wanted to bring up outside of Alfaro, Raimel Tapia, continuing to show off why he deserves to be, a bench piece or an outfield depth piece. Ended up going 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. One of those was a double. One of those was a home run in Monday's game. And it's been really nice to see him, really come into his own and continuing to show why he deserves to be a bench piece over a guy like Jarren Duran, who is also impressed.
Right. And Tapia, I mean, I always felt like he was a major league player. When he had the minor league contract, I was like, oh, that's no other MLB team wanted to give him a shot at a major league deal. But this is, he's proving that he deserves a shot at this roster. And if he keeps this up, it's going to be tough. And we've talked about how there's going to be not, well, I guess you can call them snubs, but the odd men out on this roster. And Tapia, I think is somebody who knows that he's fighting for a roster spot. I mean, everyone is, but someone like him, he's here to prove something. He's probably has a chip on his shoulder as well and wants to be part of a major league roster. And if that means he's going to kick out someone else in that roster, so be it. You're going to take the 26 best players, and if he's one of them, then he's absolutely deserved it. Because if he keeps up what he's doing, there's no way you can send him to Worcester. I don't think he'd want to go to Worcester. I'd be like, no, I don't care if it's a minor league deal. You see what I'm doing for you right now? No, I want to be on the major league roster.
And Tapia also has a similar contract clause of the March 25th. They got to add him to the 40-man roster. He has the ability to field offers from other teams. And I think, if teams had that ability right now, I think he would get snatched up very quickly. And so the Sox have a lot of different tough decisions to make going into that date of March 25th. Still got a lot of time until then for things to ultimately change. But one last guy that I want to bring up as well, who, we spoke about as a potential dark horse to make the opening day roster, is David Hamilton. Ended up going 2 for 2 in Sunday's game, a double with 2 RBIs, and also stole a base as well. And I found it interesting to hear Alex Cora's thoughts on seeing Hamilton ultimately steal a base in that game. He sort of mentioned, I've seen video of it, but seeing it in person, it's legit. And that's one thing that we saw it a little bit in Monday's game from a stolen base of the Tigers, and Will Middlebrooks was talking about it, of how that extra 3 inches of the bigger base could really help some of these stolen base runners. And I think Hamilton could really capitalize off of that. And if he continues to show what he can do, he could be looked at as one of the top guys on the list, whether if he makes the opening day roster, even if he doesn't, he definitely has caught attention from the front office and from the coaching staff.
Yeah, he absolutely has. And the bigger bags, this is kind of what they were talking about when it came to fruition, that the big bags were going to be a thing, that more stolen bases were probably going to be part of the equation. So it's nice to see someone too like David Hamilton taking advantage of that, because I'm a sucker for stolen bases. I love when anyone steals base, especially home, but that doesn't happen a whole lot. But to see it happen a bit more in spring training already, I think is fun. It makes the game. I like stolen base. I think it makes the game more fun. And the bigger bases, I haven't really sat down and like stared at the TV, but they don't look that much bigger on TV. Again, I haven't really like sat and stared at it, so I'm not going to sit here and that's my hot take of the spring training. But
even when I was there in person, like they weren't that big. Like you couldn't see a massive difference really at all, honestly.
Yeah, and we're not the ones playing, but it looks like it's just going to be more stolen bases, which means more fun.
And when you brought up stealing home, I just think back to Jacoby Ellsbury in his early days with the team, and how exciting that was as a fan, and that aspect of the game just makes it a lot more interesting and fun to watch. And I think with what David Hamilton was able to do last season, stealing 70 bases, if he's able to do something similar at a major league level, and then you potentially add Jarren Duran to that equation of being able to have 2 guys like that with the amount of speed, catchers are going to be nervous when they have to deal with the Red Sox lineup, if that ultimately is the equation during the future. But we're going to continue to keep you updated about everything that's going on with the Boston Red Sox, and help to continue to get you as excited as possible leading up to opening day. So
not to cut you off, but the Red Sox just released an update on Justin Turner that he's alert and in good spirits given the circumstances. He's being receiving treatment for soft tissue injuries and is being monitored for a concussion. He'll undergo further testing, and they'll update once they have more information. So being alert and in good spirits, I think, is a positive thing, but it's just it still sucks all around. But I'm glad he's alert and he's seems to be in good spirits given the circumstances.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. And I didn't think about the concussion aspect. It makes a lot of sense, especially with a fastball coming right at your face. But
right.
Not a doctor whatsoever, but for most concussions, it takes 2 to 3 weeks or so. So it's nice to see that. Hopefully, it doesn't hinder his ability to be able to play on opening day. But especially with something like that, we want to help a player recover as slow as possible, just in terms of making sure that it doesn't hurt him, not only in the baseball aspect, but also in just the human aspect as well, of being able to go about just your regular life. So happy to hear he's awake, aware. And, as we said before, just praying for, a speedy recovery for Justin Turner. And, we're going to continue to keep you posted about that situation and all others on here on the Locked On Red Sox podcast. And make sure to subscribe on YouTube or wherever audio platforms that you listen to. Also, we want to thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and over on YouTube. Also, make sure to follow us on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox. Also, myself, it's at Jake Iggy. And also Lauren, it's La. 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But we greatly appreciate everybody tuning into this episode. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. We'll end it how we always end it. Keep the faith and let's go Sox. Peace.